In an effort to provide a little bit more context than anyone can in a blog post of reasonable length, I wanted to record a video where I walk through the process of building out this responsive grid that we eventually get to here. All right, so let's jump into it. In the blog post, we start by creating a folder. And for me, I'll put it in this little GitHub folder. And I've got, the responsive grid example. That's what we go through in the blog post. But I'm going to create another one that is the responsive grid, maybe video, something like that. And then I'm going to open up code. So give me a sec, new window. Okay. So I opened up code, and I'm going to drag that folder that I just created right into code. Okay. In doing so, makes this the workspace. Let me also turn on a couple of things that are helpful. And I'm going to open the terminal here. I can pwd to find out what directory I'm in. I know that I'm in the responsive grid video directory. That's great. I'm not going to go through installing Node and VS Code, Chrome, and all sorts of other goodies that are sort of prerequisites for this post. This is just, if you have what you need, you can follow along in this video and make it to the end with a little bit more knowledge, intel. So first step, we need to create, actually, in px, create React app done. Okay. So that is creating all of the files that we need to get our React app started. And while this is loading, I want to talk about the fact that the blog post doesn't break this down as well as it could, but the process goes like setup. There's a lot of setup that's required for this. Once you've got this set up, then we need to do the JavaScript bits, and lastly, the style, the CSS. Once you've got it all in place, then you can go through deployment. So with the happy hacking bit there, we are ready with our files. We can run npm start. And this is going to open up the browser and eventually shows our React app, or the standard React app. Good stuff. The next step is to remove the files we don't need. So we don't need these. Move to trash. In the public folder, we don't need this, or this. Goodbye. In the source folder, we do not need CSS, test, this CSS, logo, vitals, setup, so they can all go away. Okay, these are the files that we need. Now we need to edit the files, so I'm going to remove the link, I'm going to remove the theme, actually all of this down to the title, and I will just call this title responsive grid video, whatever you want to call it there, and I'm going to remove this bit. Okay, I can save this file, index.html, it's good to go. Then in the app, we don't need either of these imports, and I'm just going to return an empty div. For now, we could return a fragment, so let's just return a fragment, puts it on a single line, and let's go into the index.js now. We no longer need the CSS or the web vitals. That means we can remove this bit. Save. And let's refresh the page. open up the console, and we're good. We are good to go. Everything's clean, just got an app component. That's all. With no props. Okay. So the next piece is the components. So let's create a components folder. And in the components folder, we're going to have a grid, which after doing this video a couple times, I realized the grid is a little redundant, but we got a card and a grid. Let's start with the grid, because that's the way we do it in the blog post. You know, we publish all of the Tableau workbooks onto our Tableau server, and then we go and get the share link right here. We copy this, and in here we do a const dashboards equals an array, and this is an array of strings. So I'm going to save this. And we need to remove everything after the question, after and including the question mark. Okay? So that's what the string looks like. I'm just going to copy this and paste it 11 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Good. Now I can select all of the 2's and delete them and go through and update. Because the dashboards are named the way that they are, I can do this, but you would just input your dashboard name here, and I am in a future video or blog post, I'm gonna figure out how to pull these from the workbook. Can't be too hard. All right? Okay, so we got our dashboards. And I skipped a step, a very important step, and that step is to get the script tag, right? So let's go get the script tag. We need to bring the Tableau JavaScript API into our application, and we do that right here. Grab the script, and we're going to hop over into index.html, and in the head of our document, we're just going to do that. Okay, that is very important. All right, so we've got a script tag, we've got the dashboards. We need to create the React functional component that is grid. We do not need to import React, and this is going to be a card component. And I'm just going to make it self-closing. I'm going to give it a dashboard prop. Dashboard equals dashboards 0. So we're going to pass the first dashboard, the first string from this array, as a prop to the card. Let's save that. And now we need to go to the card. We need to create this. There's a bit going on with cards, so I'm just going to copy and paste. Okay, so we don't need the style right now. We can also remove this, and remove this, and dip. So this is our card component. I wish I could explain useRef better, but I don't think I understand it well enough to explain it very well right now. From what I understand about the useRef hook is that useRef allows us to reference an object in the DOM. So this object is going to be mounted in the DOM, and then after the fact, we're going to use effect. So once this is mounted, use effect can do its thing, and we need to give this viz object, this Tableau viz object, a reference to an element of the DOM, and we do that using ref.current. So this is the ref, so we target that div, and within the div, the Tableau JavaScript API is going to take that URL, pull it back from the server, and inject a few options that we have right here. Return us the viz, and we're going to see that viz show up inside of this div. So it's a little funky. Let me try to say it one more time. We're going to put a div on the screen. The JavaScript API is going to create a new viz object, and that object is going to be our dashboard that's pulled from the server. And the way that we're going to specify what dashboard is pulled is by passing in a URL right there. And the URL is coming from our dashboards array right now. So to test and make sure that this is working, we want to first render a single dashboard before we go on with a full grid. So let's import the card from the card file. Save this. Let's make sure app is referencing the right thing. Nope. App needs to be bringing in grid. And this is why I say grid's a little redundant, right? Because, app is just rendering the grid. Usually this would be like the structure of your application, but in this case, the structure of our application is just a grid. So that's all we need. And we need to import the grid. So import grid from, and for this we need to go, do we need to go up a level? I don't think we need to go up a level. No, we just need to go into the components folder, and within that, grid. Save. Look at our app, refresh. Okay. So we get a viz of undefined. I've run into this before. Why does this happen? Did I save index.html? I didn't. That dot tells you it's not saved. When I go here and I save, the dot will go away. Okay? And now, once this refreshes, it's going to be able to get that viz object, and everything's going to work fine. And you can see the structure of our app. We have the app component, within that the grid, within that the card, and that card is a div. And what is that? Yeah, the card has these props, the dashboard prop. Alrighty, so we've got our first dashboard in there. Now we want to go ahead and map over all of the elements in this array and create a card for each of them. Okay, so that means I need to look at my reference. We want to go ahead and make this a multi-line return, and we're going to map over the dashboards. So I'm going to use the curly braces to let React know that this is going to be some JavaScript. So dashboards dot map dashboard, right? And then we're going to put this card within that map function. Okay, good, good. And return, cool. Now we also need to make sure, so we're going to map over the dashboards array, grabbing a dashboard from each iteration through this map, and pass in the dashboard as the value to the prop. Okay? And around this, we need a React fragment. Okay? That's because we're going to have multiple elements here. We're going to have multiple cards. And we cannot return we can't return more than one thing from this function. So we need to wrap it in a parent, right? Parent element. Okay. So if I save this, I believe it should work. Let's find out. Refresh. No, it does. But if I go to the console, we get each child in a list should have a unique key prop. Okay, this is where we introduce the UUID. So let's create a new terminal. We're going to npm I UUID, right? And I want to just double check. I know I referenced this in the blog post, but I want to double check that we're doing this properly. Okay, UUID. Yeah, UUID, good. All right, so let's run this. And then that's going to be, once it's done, it'll be on npm node modules, not npm modules, node modules, and we can import it, and we can call the function to give us a unique key. Right. So that's what we need to do there. So this package allows us to generate a unique key for each one of our cards. And the reason this is required is that React needs to know, sort of like, it wants to keep tally of everything in the application, the state of the application, if you will. And the way it does that, as we're creating components, nested components, et cetera, is through the key prop. So React needs to know what's being updated so that React can keep the state up to date. So it's still doing its thing. While it's doing its thing, I'm going to go back to our app, and I'm going to pull up the components and just notice the props for these cards, right? So it's just dashboard, 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 dashboard. If I expand it, we should be able to see the value. Alright, that's dashboard 5, that's dashboard 4, dashboard 3, okay, etc., etc. We are done installing that, so I'm going to save this, and I'm going to refresh. When I refresh, we should see a new prompt. Oh, we did this last time. Okay. So lame. Why does it do that? I do not know why. Let me just stop this. I'm gonna start it up again. I don't know why I get crap when I install UUID, but I do. I do almost every time. I'm following the instructions. Done this a few times. Okay, cool. So I just restarted React, and now we see the unique key props being added to the cards. Okay, good stuff. The next step, once we got the keys in there, is there really anything else? No, styles. Styles is next. So we're done with the JS bit, right? We've got all of our dashboards. We have the keys. We're doing all the things. Now we just need to add the styles. So the way I do that is npm install -- save styled components. Style components, yeah. Style components. Alright. Okay, while it's doing that, we can set up the folder structure. So we're going to want a styles folder. And within the styles folder, we're going to have a card style, .js, and a grid style. Grid style. .js. Okay. Good. It's happy. let's go grab that grid style. We can copy and paste this from the blog post, but we're importing style from style components, which we just installed. This is going to create a div for us that we're going to wrap around our component. We're displaying grid with a max width, auto margin, a grid gap in between the elements, 1.5 rem. It's going to automatically fit the elements within the space that it has available. The column is going to be no less than 300 pixels, but no more than one fraction of the width. Okay, so a little funky, but the grid wants to take this width and separate it into fractions. So if you take 1100 and you divide it by the number of elements we have, then it's going to come up with a fraction, and that's going to be our upper bound, and this is going to be our lower bound. So as we shrink the screen, it's going to have to refit itself. Like, it's going to have to create a different column structure based on the min and the max that we're giving the grid template columns attribute. It's a little heavy, but when we save this, we can take the style and go into our components, and where we had a fragment before, we can just use our grid style there, and then we want to import. I don't have a good order. Grid style from .grid. So this is going to go up. I need to go out of the components folder into the styles, and then within that, grid style. Grid style. Now I worry that I didn't get autocomplete there. So let's review. So we're in grid, we're gonna go up. Okay. We don't need that. We need to go up a level, then into the styles, and within that, grid style. We save, and we should see the grid. Nice. Good stuff. Okay, we've got a grid. If you want to inspect it, you can do that with, let me see, how did I do that? Right. So we are here. I'm going to inspect this element, right? And then you want to see layout, right? You can check the grid overlays. And I'm going to this to the bottom. And you can see how the grid is being created and how all of our elements fit within it. And it looks like these are currently sort of off to the left, right? They start in the top left. They're not taking up the full width, or they're not centered within the cell. We're going to fix that when we introduce the card style. Let me go get the card style, hop into the card style file, paste it in, and we're just going to do margin auto. This will center it, give it some padding, a tiny border radius, and a little drop shadow. So with that, we can go to our card. We can import card style from /styles/card style. Good. Now we need to make this a multi-line return. Let's run that. Go here. We're going to want a card style. Good. I'm gonna cut that, indent that a little, and then unindent that, save. And we should see our drop shadows. And our, yep, good. I'm gonna turn this off. And now you can see that they're centered within the cell. Okay? That's really it. We went through some hassle setting this up. We wrote the JavaScript, and then we just created styles for the grid to get that layout, and then we created styles for each card to make sure that the dashboard is positioned well and you can identify the borders of the card, all that good stuff. So that's that. Congratulations again on making it through the blog post. Really hope this video was helpful. Let me know what you think of this format. I'm constantly iterating, and I want to make sure that this is the best experience for you all as you're trying to learn this stuff as well as I am. So again, thanks for watching.